Let's start off with a quick note about rooms. Students don't automatically have any tools available to them in Magic School. The only way that they get this access is if a teacher creates a room for them. You can also choose whichever specific tools you want students to use. This also ensures that every student who is using Magic School has a teacher with their eyes on them. When you have a room that is open for students to use, just make sure that you're checking in so that you can see if any of their conversations have been flagged so that you can follow up with them as needed. Next, let's talk about some things to consider when setting up your rooms. First, consider what your room will be used for. For instance, you may choose to create a room with learning tools that students can access anytime, with tools like a tutor or maybe even writing feedback. This would be a room that you could potentially keep open for a long period of time. You can also decide if you want to create a room for specific tools for a unit that you're working on. By creating a room for a specific unit, you can open the room at the beginning of the unit and have the tools tailored to specifically what it is that you're learning about. We'll talk more about customizing tools in just a minute. You could also create a room for an individual student or for students with a specific need. For example, if you have a student with an IEP accommodation, you could create a room that has specific tools designed just for them. Next, think about how you want to manage content. You could decide to have one room where you constantly change the tools to match the unit that you're working on. Or you could create rooms per unit so that you don't have to recreate the tools all over and over and over again. Adding rooms by unit may make it easier to share them with future classes as you won't have to go back in to customize any tools, you'll just have to share the room with a new group of students. Last, consider how you want to manage students. Do you only want the students who are in your physical classroom to be in your virtual Magic School classroom? Or do you want all students, regardless of their hour, to be in the same classroom if they are studying the same topic? It truly comes down to personal preference, and there's really no right or wrong answer. It depends on your individual workflow and how you want it to work for your students. Here are some pros and cons to having your rooms organized by hour or class or by unit or topic. Take a look and determine what you think is going to be best for your students. Remember, too, that it's okay to change your mind. You might try rooms one way and then realize a different setup would work better. It may be different for each teacher and subject area as well. Start simple and adapt as you learn and grow. Next, let's talk getting logged in. First, if you have classes in Skyward, you will log in through ClassLink. Simply open your ClassLink and click on Magic School to be automatically logged in. If you do not have classes in Skyward, go to app.magicschool.ai and log in with Google. When you get logged in, you'll see all the amazing tools that Magic School has for teachers. This is where you, as a teacher, would use these tools with AI to create your own lesson plans and more. If you want to launch to students, you'll click Launch to Students in the left-hand column. Here you can see all of the student rooms that have already been created. If you haven't created one yet, this area might be empty. In the top right corner, click Launch New Room to create a new room. Next, you will need to create your room details. First, you're going to set your room name. Remember that your students will see this name and this is what they will tap on to get to the room that you are using. So if you are using it based on your hour, you want to make sure that you include the hour of the day as well as your name. If you are doing something based on your unit name, make sure that you would do something that your students will recognize and tap on for the name of that unit. Next, under grade level, just choose the grade level for the students who you will be working with. Any tools that you add to this room will be tailored to the grade level that you have chosen. It's important to note that any tool that you add to this room can also be customized to a different grade level to meet the needs of your students. Last, you're going to set the max number of students that you want to be able to join this room. If you have a room for your entire school, you may need to increase this number, but if you're using it just for a smaller group, you can just leave it right at 250. Last, you need to choose if you will require login or not. If you require login, it will automatically tie your rooms to your students' accounts, and it will automatically pull the students' names into your room. This makes it easy to keep track of things. If you don't require login, your students will be able to type in any name that they choose to use with your room. While not requiring login may simplify the process, it also will mean that those rooms won't be tied to your student's account and that they can use whatever name they choose. When you're finished with customizing your room, tap Next in the upper right corner. The
tool.
next thing you will do is
Um,
choose tools that you want your
and then
students
it
to be
says
able
up
to
here, your
use.
room
You
tools
can
appear
choose
here.
however many tools you
So
want
these are
to
the
use with
tools
your
that we could
students.
choose to put
There are a
in the
variety of
room.
tools available, and
Okay.
you can simply
Um,
scroll the list or
one,
use the search bar at
the
the
one
top
that
to
I
find
used
something
for my
specific.
library.
When you find the tool you want to use, simply click on it and it will be added to the box at the top, showing that it is now part of your student's room.
Recommend
Once
that.
you've added the
So I
tool
would
or
choose the
tools that
first
you
one you're
need
going
for
to
your
work
room,
with and say
simply
add,
click
and then
next in
I'm
the upper right
saying
corner.
next in the top right corner.
Now you can choose if you
I'm
want
going
to
to go in,
customize
I
the
have to
tool or
customize
just leave the
this
tool the way it
chatbot.
is set up originally.
So
If you
the
click to
name of it
customize, you will be
might
able to
be
rename the tool so that your students can recognize
general
exactly what it's going to be used
info
for.
bot.
Then you
Okay.
can provide a brief
And
description for them as well.
you
As you
can
update
see
things on
over
the left side,
here
you'll notice that the right
um,
side updates in the
what
preview.
the
There are different options for the read aloud voice, and you can also choose a different grade level if you need to. Note that if you change your output to being for a different grade, it might refer to that in its commentary. For example, it might say, "Hello, third graders," even if you're working with sixth graders. So you want to make sure that in the instructions for the chatbot that you would give them some information so that it knows what grade level of students it's actually working with. In the instructions for the chatbot, it is also very important to give it a role. For example, you can have it say that you are working with middle school students and that you are a science expert if you wanted to do something specifically related to science. The roles don't have to be specific to a different subject either. You can even tell it to act as a funny game show host, a blogger, or whatever else you can come up with. Be as specific as you can about what you want the chatbot to do so that it knows exactly how to interact with your students. Next, under Knowledge, you can choose to give some background information to your chatbot. You can upload a lesson plan, you could upload handouts that you've given your students, you can even link to a website or a YouTube video. For example, when I was doing this with teachers, I linked to a YouTube video that I provided them on AI literacy, and the chatbot was able to pull questions for a game show based on the video itself. Next to the grade level, instructions for the chatbot, and knowledge, you will also see a tiny eyeball icon. This notes whether your students will be able to see the information that you have provided the chatbot or not. If you don't want your students to know what instructions you've given the chatbot or what background knowledge it has, you can simply click on the eyeball and it will be hidden from the students. When you're finished, click the next button in the upper right hand corner. Now you will see a preview of your customized chatbot. In remembering that AI can sometimes get it wrong, it's very important to test this out before you give it to your students. So tap Generate and see what happens when you work within the tool. Interact with the tool, and if you want, you can even click on the purple Actions button to have it translated and a variety of other options that your students will have access to as well. When you see the responses for Magic School, you can even tap on Read Aloud to have the response read aloud. This is a feature that your students will have access to on their iPads as well. Next, you can click the Save button in the upper right-hand corner of the box to save your tool. That tool is now in the Customize Tools section, and once you've customized any tools that you want to use, you can tap on Launch Room in the upper right-hand corner. Next, you will see the options for how you are going to share the room out with your students. One of the very easiest ways to do this is by tapping on Join Codes. If you have your students going through ClassLink, you will give them the code that is provided on this screen. If you use a QR code, it will take them into regular Safari and they might have to log in through a variety of different steps. If you go through ClassLink, you can simply give them this alphanumeric code and have them type it into their Magic School page in ClassLink. Once your students have joined your class, you will see that their names are listed as well as their last messages. You can also see if your students are active and what tools it is that they are using. In the second column, you will also see a notation for flagged activity. This is where you will see if any students are using inappropriate language, disengaged from the activity, or if they have something more serious going on that they might need to talk to a teacher about instead of a chatbot. It is important to keep an eye out for these flags and communicate with your students when a situation arises. If you ever want to look more closely at a student's conversation, simply click on it and you can view the full transcript of their conversation. And that's it. That's the basics of setting up Magic School to use it with your students. Remember that there are a variety of ways to set up each one of your rooms and that there are a variety of tools that you can customize to meet your needs. If you run into trouble, simply reach out for help. And also, be sure to check out Magic School's online certification programs. They're completely free and will provide you some really great background information on using Magic School with your students. Finally, a huge shout out to Kate Olson for her help with the screen recordings for this video and for her leadership in trying this with our students. Thank you for all that you do and have fun giving Magic Student a try with your classes.